Golden State Media Concepts bring you the Bible Study Podcast. Reflect and journey the Bible as together we study God's Word and be inspired. Bible study made fun and informative for all ages. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Bible Study Podcast.
Welcome to the GSMC Bible Study Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Sarah, and I hope you have had a wonderful weekend and a beautiful Sunday. The weather was gorgeous here today, so cannot complain about that too much. Today is the sixth Sunday of Easter, but it is also Good Shepherd Sunday, which is it's called the Good Shepherd Sunday because all of the texts reference shepherds in some way. We read Psalm 23, which is, of course, the Lord is my shepherd. And I wanted to do something a little bit different this time, still dealing with Good Shepherd. And that is that recently I interviewed a dear friend of mine on the GSMC Book Review podcast. And she and her dear friend just wrote a book called Morris, Somewhere Out There. It is a children's book, and it is based on the story of the Good Shepherd. It is really sweet, and I thought it would be fun to share on this Good Shepherd Sunday. Before we get to that, let's go ahead and read the gospel text for this week, just so we get one version of the Good Shepherd story. Another version that you might be familiar with is the story of the shepherd who leaves the 99 to go after the lost sheep, and you'll see elements of that in the Morris book. Today's Good Shepherd story, though, comes to us from the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verses 1 through 10. Jesus said, "Very truly I tell you, anyone who does not enter the sheepfold by the gate, but climbs in by another way, is a thief and a bandit. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. They will not follow a stranger, but they will run from him because they do not know the voice of strangers." Jesus used this figure of speech with them, but they did not understand what he was saying to them. So again, Jesus said to them, "Very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and bandits, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters by me will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." And again, that is John chapter 10, verses 1 through 10, just one of multiple examples of Jesus as the Good Shepherd in the Bible. And that is our gospel reading for Good Shepherd Sunday. So I am going to turn this episode over now to my interview with Penny Walde, with comments from her co-author, Debra O'Neil, who was not able to join us for that interview, but was able to submit some written answers. I hope you enjoy the episode. I am excited because I am interviewing a very good friend of mine today, and I've had people on the podcast before that have been friends and acquaintances, and I've loved every time. I'm always amazed at how many people I know who have written books. I think that's so cool. I don't know, it's like I come from an environment that appreciates books or something. I'm excited about today's interview because this author, Penny Walde, is the one that I have known the longest. So originally that record was held by Camille Greep and Juliet Cutler, both of whom I met the same summer when we all worked at the same Lutheran Bible camp together. But now I'm interviewing Penny Walde, and I have known her, I don't even know how old I was. She and her husband her husband was the intern at the Lutheran church I attended growing up. And that was, something like 8 million years ago. I don't remember. I should know this. Was I in junior high? Was it earlier than that? At any rate, they then came back after Joel, her husband, graduated from seminary, and he was our pastor for a while. So he was the pastor who married my sister and brother-in-law. Penny was my high school volleyball coach. I lived in a very small town growing up, so there's all kinds of crossover and connection. And I babysat their kids. They have 3, and just lots of connection. My parents and I used to have, I don't even know, regular, monthly maybe. Maybe they were more sporadic than that, but we would have pizza and movie nights. Penny makes really amazing homemade pizza. So we would have pizza and movie nights, and we would all hang out. And it was just a lot of fun. I definitely miss that. I haven't seen Penny since a friend of ours' wedding 6 years ago, I think that was. And before that, it had been even longer. So it was really great to talk to her and to catch up a little bit and just see what's going on in her life, and also to talk about her book. I'm sort of laughing this week because we're on opposite ends of the spectrum with the books. Tuesday was an adult thriller, I Know Where You Sleep, suspense. Today is a children's book about a sheep, kind of a mischievous sheep named Morris. The book is called Morris, Somewhere Out There, and it is by Penny and her friend Debra O'Neil. Unfortunately, Deb was not able to join us for this interview. She did send in some answers to do the questions, though, so we were able to incorporate those into the conversation. We missed her, but we understood that she was not available to be with us at this time. Let me go ahead and give you the description of the book. It is called Morris, Somewhere Out There. Morris, the fun-loving lamb, believes life is more exciting outside the pen. He disregards the rules that Norm, the shepherd, presents to the herd that morning. Morris also ignores all the warnings from Norm, his sheep friends, and his newfound companion, Bo Peep. Finding a place where the fence post has fallen down, Morris jumps over the broken fence and escapes the safety of the pen to find what he thinks is greener grass. Morris is totally unaware of the dangers, and he ignores surroundings to satisfy his own wishes. The wolf, whose name is Flo, wolf spelled backwards, lurks around the fence line of the pen and is ready to snatch this carefree lamb. Thankfully, the good shepherd is always guarding his sheep and is mindful of where they are at all times. Norm, the shepherd, our hero in the story, is willing to do what is needed to rescue his beloved sheep, Morris. What a glorious day it is when Morris is brought back safely to the pen and the herd. Hopefully Morris has learned a valuable lesson about listening and following rules. That is the description of Morris, Somewhere Out There, by Penny Walde and Debra O'Neil. They both helped write the story, and Penny did the illustrations. The illustrations are bold and bright and really fun. There's a couple things that I really loved about this book. First, it rhymes, and I'm a big fan of Dr. Seuss and Shel Silverstein. So, a good rhyming book that you can read with your kiddos is always fun. Second, are the pictures. As I mentioned, they're so much fun and so bright and eye-catching. And then third is that you notice that phrase Good Shepherd in there, and this is based on the Good Shepherd story of Jesus in the New Testament. But you don't have to know the Bible. You don't have to be a Christian to enjoy this book. You can be completely secular and still enjoy a good story about a sheep, a character who needs to listen and learn to trust that those rules are put there for a good reason. If you are Christian, then you will recognize the story, and maybe it's another way of sharing that with your own children, with Sunday school children, with vacation Bible school children, what have you. So those are the reasons that I love this book. And so let me go ahead and stop my rambling portion and get on to the interview with Penny. Hi, Penny. I am so excited to have you on the podcast.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be on the podcast.
So we have known each other for, a really long time. I'm not going to count it up right now.
No math.
And so I'm excited that you're here, and we are here to talk about your new children's book. It's called Morris, Somewhere Out There. Before we get to the book, though, if you could share a little bit about yourself, that would be great.
Okay. Well, I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Art Education and Health and Human Performance, although I've never really followed that in my career path. I also have a Master of Arts in Pastoral. It's called Pastoral Theological Ministry, whatever that means. And,
that's really hard to say. Wow.
So, yeah, I guess I sound important, but anyway, so I've had a variety of jobs, including teaching elementary art. I taught special ed for a while, taught Title I. I was a Rhodes Scholar Director for a while through the University of Montana Western in Dillon, and now I work at a physical therapy clinic in Florence, Montana. My husband Joel and I recently moved to Florence. We have 3 grown children. 2 of them live close to us, which is really nice and kind of why we moved here. And then our daughter is in Minnesota with 2 grandchildren, a boy and a girl. And I'm also on the side an artist, have been an artist for many years and have worked in a variety of mediums. My most popular or my most favorite is printmaking, but I also do watercolor, hand lettering, some pen and ink, and then I do handcraft my original cards. So, and we, like I say, we've lived in Montana for a long time. That's how I know you, obviously, from our first congregation in Plains, Montana, till now. So over close to 30 years, and we love Montana, the outdoors, and everything it has to offer. So
yes,
that is me.
And that is you, and I'm jealous that you are in Montana and I am not, but that is okay. And it's very strange because this will give some clue as to how long we've known each other, in that I used to babysit your now adult children. Yes. So this book is written with a co-author, Debra O'Neil, and she unfortunately could not join us today, but she did send in some answers to questions. So for the listeners, Deb says that she worked in public education for 30 years. She's retired but working part-time assisting with reading and language arts. She has helped with Sunday and Vacation Bible School, and she and her daughter traveled twice with Youth with a Mission to the Baja Peninsula to work on house building missions. So that's a little bit about Deb. Where did you and Deb meet?
Aha, you're going to have to wait to find out the answer to that question because we have to take our first break of the podcast. But when we come back, you'll find out where Penny and Deb met and how they decided to write a book together and all of those wonderful nosy questions that I like to ask. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, and I'll be right back.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast. Time to hashtag everything. We talk about all the fun, crazy stories on social media. From Instagram to Facebook, Twitter to Tumblr, or probably even Friendster. Join us each week as we explore the quirky side of social media. It's the Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast.
It's simple, such a sad song. The one that we rely on to get us.
Welcome back. Before the break, I had just asked Penny where she and Deb met, and then I was very rude and interrupted. So I will now take you back to that interview so you can find out the answer to the question that I asked a couple of moments ago.
Well, my husband Joel was a pastor in Dillon, Montana, and that is actually Deb was part of the interview team, and she kind of showed us around the church. That's when I first met her, but we became fast friends once we moved to Dillon, and we've been good friends ever since. So that would have been in 2001. So since 2001, I have known Deb.
Okay. So let's talk about the book. Again, it's called Morris, Somewhere Out There. And can you give just a brief overview of the story?
So the story kind of follows the biblical story of the lost sheep, although it kind of started that way, but because both of us in Dillon, and Dillon is very much a ranching community, a couple of very large sheep ranches, so we were very familiar with sheep, and so it just kind of all fell together. So Morris is he doesn't like to pay attention. He doesn't like to follow rules. And when the shepherd directs the sheep, the flock, Morris decides that he would rather be somewhere else. And, the grass is always greener somewhere else. And so he gets out of the pen and runs into a dangerous situation against the wolf, whose name is Flo. And just so you know, Flo comes because that is wolf spelled backwards. We've had a lot of questions that we don't spell it right. So it's wolf spelled backwards. And Flo and so then the shepherd is worried and looks for Morris, and there is a little bird who helps the shepherd find Morris, and the shepherd comes and leaves the other sheep and comes and finds Morris and brings him back, and all is well. So that's kind of Morris in a nutshell.
In a nutshell. It's very cute, yes. And it's written in a rhyming style, so it's fun to read. Now, Deb says that you are the one who encouraged her to work on wordsmithing a fun story for others to enjoy. That's what she wrote. So is that the way you remembered it? That you came up with the idea?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to write a book, and so Deb and I had been very involved we were Sunday school superintendents together for several years, and we wrote a lot of Sunday school curriculum. We did Sunday school Christmas programs, Bible school curriculum, all kinds of things. And of course, we could never just use other resources. We had to always recreate everything. And we had tons of fun doing it. And so then when we were not doing that anymore, it was like there was something missing. And so I said, let's write a book. And so we did, kind of taking off from where we left off. So
fun. And what made you decide to write? Kind of dealing with the sheep ranches around you and your background in Sunday school and Vacation Bible School. Why the Lost Shepherd story in particular? I mean, the lost sheep. The Good Shepherd.
Right. Well, as we started talking about it, we wanted to write something that families and children could relate to, in the sense that it kind of life skills, children life skills, but also, that I think all of us deal with, and the fact that sometimes it's hard for us to follow directions. Sometimes we want to do the way we want to do it, and sometimes we envy the greener grass on the other side and all that kind of thing. And so we wanted a story, and of course when we started talking about this, it wasn't just one story. We wanted kind of a significant character, and I guess I was inspired I grew up with Charlie Brown, and kind of that Charlie Brown character of, the lessons always learned kind of thing. And so we wanted to have some sort of life lesson that came out of this, but we also, because of our faith, and because we wanted to just share the love of Jesus, our Good Shepherd, in some fun way. And in the past, when we'd done like Christmas programs and everything, we always kind of put foremost that, you want to bring the story to life for children so they can understand God's amazing love for us, but at the same time, kind of make it fun and make it interesting. And so we kind of recreated different, I don't know how you say it, but just through, obviously the Christmas story is the same, but we recreated in all different kinds of ways, sharing the same story, but in a fun new way. And so that's kind of what we wanted to do with this particular story. And we originally started with the idea of a sheep and a shepherd, and then just found all kinds of biblical references to Jesus, our Good Shepherd. And so we just started with the lost sheep story and just kind of grew from there.
And I like that you can, if you're familiar with the story of the lost sheep, then you're definitely going to recognize it in this story. But also, it can be read from a completely secular standpoint and be enjoyed. And still, there's some good lessons to be learned. And then if children were to encounter the Good Shepherd story later, they'd be like, hey, I know that story. I read a book about that once.
Yeah, and that was kind of our hope. And we wanted to, obviously, like I said, share how much God loves us and will do whatever it takes to come after us and keep us out of danger. But at the same time, our parents, our teachers, our caretakers, the same kind of thing. They love us. They want to take care of us. We have boundaries. We have rules because of their love for us, and just showing how they will do what they need to do to come after us and protect us.
And Morris is the main character, the sheep who is, not wanting to listen. Deb writes that he portrays many characteristics of people, i.e. there's always something more interesting out there and we don't have to listen to others. I can do it myself. And I think that, Morris is a lot of us. I think we often have those chafing at rules, those feelings of chafing at rules or wanting to do it myself. What, from your perspective, what do you think it is about Morris that will resonate with your readers?
Well, I think Morris is, he's very curious and he has that sense of adventure, which a lot of us too, but also, I guess, just bringing, again, like as Deb said, bringing to light the fact that he doesn't pay attention because, he's looking somewhere else. And I guess for children, just the importance of paying attention and understanding why there are boundaries, why there are rules, and the possible dangers that are out there. But yeah, again, like Deb said, there's something better over there. I know the grass is greener somewhere else. I got to find it, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. What age range do you think would respond best to the story? What age range did you write it for?
Well, we originally wrote it for, actually for fairly young kids because of the rhyming, that they could, parents or teachers or caregivers could read it to them, and it just has kind of a fun little gait to it, that kind of thing. So I would say, once kids sit and listen to books and see the pictures, so even preschool age and then up till probably like 3rd or 4th grade, we were thinking. But I do think it's kind of ageless in the sense that Dr. Seuss was an inspiration, I know, for me for a very long time. And I mean, I still like reading his books. And
me too.
They are fun to read. So I guess that was the hope, that it's kind of an ageless kind of a book that people would enjoy just because it's fun and rhyming.
Well, and as I mentioned at the beginning, I am an adult and I think rhyming books are fun. So I don't know, maybe I just am a child at heart. We're going to go ahead and take our second break of the podcast. When we come back, we'll be talking about the co-author relationship and how that worked for Penny and Deb. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, and I'll be right back.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Book Review Podcast. I am speaking today with Penny Walde with a few answers here and there from her co-author, Debra O'Neil, who was unfortunately unable to join us, but who did give us some answers to the questions that I asked. So let's go ahead and get back to that interview about their book, Morris, Somewhere Out There.
I'm always fascinated with co-author relationships. So in this case, how did that work? How did you work together? I mean, I know you did the illustrations, but you also worked with Deb on the story. Is that correct?
Right. And she helped with the illustrations. You know, I would draw them out and such, and we would talk about them. But actually, we had tons of fun, and we are both extremely random people. And so to sit, for anyone that has any kind of type A personality, to sit in the same room with us would probably drive them crazy. But we're just very random, and we just had tons of fun and creating. But it always, whenever we were creating something, it was just kind of this, I don't know, all I can think of is like this big, huge ball of messed up yarn that's just going all over the place, but it always comes back to, we always get the idea out there. So I have to say we're very fun, and it always amazed us both how things came together in our creating sessions, because probably a creating session would be 2-3 hours because of all the random tours we were taking. So, but yeah, it worked really well, which was amazing.
Yeah, and Deb's answer is that, again, lots of laughter. She says the laughter and creativity was delightful. We shared so many fun ideas, frustrations, and useful edits. Other commitments interfered with getting together as often as we would have liked, but it allowed for ideas to develop.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So can you talk about the illustrations, the style of the illustrations, what kind of inspired the particular style for you?
So as an artist, I've always wanted to illustrate, and I've always, just kind of a fun side dream of mine. But I wanted it to be, well, like teaching special ed, teaching children's art. I love children's art, and I love how kids see things. And so I wanted it to be fairly simple and bold and colorful. And I guess I have to say I went about it in kind of a barbaric way with our new, our technological world that we live in. So every page is hand-drawn, painted, and it took a very long time. And my daughter, who's a graphic designer, kind of laughed at me through it. She did help me with digitizing it, because once I had it all drawn out, then it had to be digitized in a form that could be put in a book. And so, like I said, the main thing was that when you open the full page, it's mostly illustration, because all of us, I shouldn't say all of us, but when I read a book, I like pictures. I see things in pictures. So that was the purpose of that. And like I said, very simple and bright. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and actually, as you read through, the sun is on every page and isn't part of the story, but reacts to every part of the story. So that's really fun.
And that was kind of the other idea, that each character, had their own little personality, and that's been fun to hear different teachers who've read the book to children, or different kids who've read it, and how they get so excited about the sun, and his or her reaction to it on each page. So yeah.
Yeah,
I'm glad you noticed that.
Yes. Do you think that you and Deb will write more books together?
Well, we kind of hope so. My move to Florence hasn't really helped that much, but, we talked about, and it was another kind of random thing. So where I used to walk when we were in Dillon, we would walk by this small sheep ranch, and one day all the sheep were all huddled up, laying down, and there was this llama head poked out of the middle of all these sheep. And instantly I thought, book 2. So that's kind of the hope, is that we can kind of not attack, that's not a very nice word. We could kind of touch on the idea of, being afraid of the dark and kids being afraid of the dark. And again, our Good Shepherd is with us, but kind of the idea that Norm takes a night off and the llama is in charge. Anyway, just a silly little idea, but
I love it. Llamas are very popular right now, so yeah.
Yeah.
And I bet a llama would be fun to draw.
Yes, and they're kind of quirky looking, so
yes.
He would fit right in.
Yes, absolutely. And I will just say, from my own personal perspective, I love this book and, the idea of other books, because often if you're working in a Sunday school or church setting, sometimes you just want a good, sweet, simple book to read with kids about a specific topic, and it's sometimes hard to find those books that aren't that are good. There's sometimes books out there that you're like, this is not really what I want to talk about. So I will be selfish and say, please write more books, because that would be awesome for Sunday school teachers.
Yeah,
to have at their disposal.
Yeah, and one thing I had said earlier too, is just putting a different twist on some of these stories that are told over and over again, just a little bit of a different fun twist, just to kind of get kids thinking. So.
Yep, I agree. I always ask about favorite authors and genres, because I'm nosy and I like to know what people read. Deb wrote Patricia Polacco, I don't know if I pronounced that last name right, but Dr. Seuss and Tommy DePaola, who are children's authors, and I'm so sad that Tommy DePaola just died in the last couple of weeks. But some of my favorites as well. You can tell me your favorite children's authors or your favorite authors to read as an adult, whichever you would like to do.
Yeah, so I, unfortunately, growing up, I was never a very good reader, and so I kind of stayed away from reading, and then I went to seminary and had to read all these heady theology books, and I don't know, it just kind of turned me off to reading. But then once I had my own children, I started teaching and working with children. Again, Dr. Seuss was a big inspiration for me, and different children's authors. And then I've now started reading Francine Rivers, who I really like. I love and romance and mystery, and I read several John Grisham books too, just because I love the mystery and whodunit and that kind of stuff too. So kind of all over the board with authors, but I would say probably Dr. Seuss has been a big inspiration for me, because of his fun, quirky stories, but they all have deeper meaning, and that was kind of what we wanted to bring out in Morris.
Yeah, and he had such a good way with cadence and rhyme. They're fun. They're fun to read. Do you have advice for someone who might want to write a children's book?
Well, I guess just because this was so random and so, we just kind of started from the bottom and worked our way through it, trying to figure out the best way to do it and how to do it. So I know as we finished it, we worked through, we did self-publishing through BookBaby, and so they had different suggestions, and we did talk to kind of a marketing person. And I guess the advice I would have, and something I'm not very good at and we've not been very good at, is getting it out there and marketing it. So, I think there's a lot of great ideas out there and a lot of people who have wonderful stories to tell. But the biggest hurdle for us was, like I said, getting it out there and putting the time and commitment into marketing through book events, and online presence, social media presence, all those things, which we have not mastered. And so I appreciate, I guess, you reaching out to me and being able to talk about it, because that part is kind of discouraging. So, and I don't know, like I said, it's not really much advice, but I guess the advice is to have fun doing it and to share your stories and be willing to share your stories and seek out the help that you need. And that's just kind of the path we had to take, because, like I said, we've never done this before, and it was all new. And we were kind of groping in the dark, trying to figure out how to do it. So
I do also have a bit of advice from Deb, but once again, you're going to have to wait until after our final break of the podcast to find out what that is. Stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, and I'll be right back.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast, dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Welcome back to the GSMC Book Review Podcast. Before the break, Penny was sharing her advice for aspiring authors, especially aspiring children's book authors. And now we are going to get Deb's answer to that same question.
Yeah, and Deb's advice is very, very concise. Be patient and laugh often, she says.
Yes.
So
yes.
Those are good things to remember as well. Don't get so caught up in everything that you aren't having fun with it.
Right.
So since you are both kind of new to this, I don't believe you have an author website or anything like that. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. The book is on Amazon, and that's about the extent of our online presence.
Okay.
Which, like I said, it's, go ahead.
Okay. No, I was looking to see if, I know Deb said that the bookstore in Dillon does have a few copies, but basically Amazon is your best source to get the book.
Right. Yeah. And I've put it out there on Facebook a few times and Instagram. But I have a limited following, so it doesn't, I mean, actually I've got a few sales off of it, but not much. So.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we will get some people who would like to purchase it. You should get it, people. It's cute. It's very fun. I like it. Okay, so we've talked about a variety of things. Is there anything else that you would like for people to know about the book or writing or illustrating, anything that we haven't talked about?
I guess just to kind of put an exclamation mark by what Deb had said, and I guess I've kind of said too, is that just have fun and laugh through it and be patient and I guess enjoy the stories that you have and share them with people.
Mm-hmm. And yes, to piggyback off of that, Deb wrote, holding a book and turning the pages can be so mindful of new ideas, places, feelings, and adventures. And she says, books comfort readers.
Yeah.
Which I liked, because that's definitely true.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Penny, thank you so much for joining me. I loved chatting with you. And just thank you for taking the time out of your weekend to talk to me.
Well, thank you for this opportunity.
So thank you once again to Penny for joining me and Deb for submitting her question or the answers to the questions in writing. I really appreciate both of them for doing that. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I thought it was so appropriate for Good Shepherd Sunday. The book is so very cute, and it would have been great if you'd had it today to read for a children's time or something, but next time. There's always another Good Shepherd Sunday coming up, or if you've got VBS this summer, it would be great for that. So I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you check out the book Morris Somewhere Out There by Penny Walde and Debra O'Neil. You can find it on Amazon, as we said in the interview. Hope you've had a great weekend and that the week ahead is looking good. If you're a fan of this podcast, as always, I ask you to please follow us on social media, share, retweet, do all of those wonderful things. But also, if you could subscribe to this podcast and give us a nice review, whether written or 5-star, it would be so very much appreciated, as that helps get this podcast out to more listeners like you. Hope you have a great week ahead of you, and please do remember during the week that you are a beautiful and beloved child of God, this week and always. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Bible Study Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.